So let's talk about the gut then, because there's multiple things that you just said there that all you've led back to the gut. And in hindsight, everyone listening and watching are going, well done for trusting your gut. But there are many times that, at least for me, I've trusted my gut and I was wrong. And I've learned my lesson and then I move on. So I want to start with you're a news anchor, you've got the blotches, nothing was working for you, you're going to try your own. What made you trust your gut in that sense? Because like you said, you had college debt, so you have all this stuff that's stacked against you. It's based on beauty, which for women is very emotional. So how did you keep going and like try to find the solution instead of just hide away? Like, what are the things that you told yourself that pushed you to keep going and trust your gut that this was the right path for you?
I've always had this feeling deep down inside, like I'm meant to do great things that help other people.
Interesting.
I've always kind of just known it. Even when I took the low-paying job to learn journalism instead of like a super high-paying, consultant or banking job, I just feel like if we get one life, I want to, like, the day I die, which God willing, it's a long time in the future, like I want to literally know there's nothing left in me that could have been used to help someone else.
And you felt that even back when you were the news anchor? Wow. So, because I actually didn't feel like that.
No?
I do now.
You do now,
I feel like
so
now,
you know
like
it, right? That
my
feeling.
purpose of all the failures that I've had, all the problems, all the health issues, my purpose now is to speak it so that it can help other people.
And
but
it
back,
does.
But back when I
Thank you.
started, it didn't. It was actually, if I can be so honest, it was out of pure ego. So when people told me you can't do it, you're not good enough to do it, you're dumb, you're stupid, what are you doing, you're not talented, I was just stubborn enough to say, I can do it. I'm going to prove them wrong. And it was out of stubbornness, not out of like, I want to share it with the world, that actually pushed me to then show myself what I was capable of.
So you were driven by ego because you're like, I'm going to prove them wrong.
Exactly. Then I realized, wow, I'm actually did do it and I'm kind of capable. And so then it's like, well, if you're capable, what else can you do? And so that became the foundation of then, okay, maybe I have a superpower. So if I have a superpower now, how am I going to help others? So it kind of became a transition for me versus then just an initial, like, from the beginning. So that's why it's really impressive that you felt that even before you had any validation that you can do it or that you have the ability to do it.
Yeah, I've always had that feeling. And it's funny that you say this. I've definitely done things for ego. I have definitely done things for ego. And most of the time when I do that, I regret it. It doesn't feel right, right? You know what I'm saying? And sometimes I do stuff on ego and it turns out great and whatever, but it's like, it doesn't compare to that feeling of knowing you're doing something bigger than yourself. I feel like when you spend the time to really think about your why and why you're doing it, why or how it's bigger than yourself, that will sustain you through so many hard times, right? Because just hearing some of what you're sharing, I'm having flashbacks even to so many of the hard times, even once we finally got yeses and finally we're on QVC and all of that, when you're putting in 100-hour weeks and when stuff doesn't go your way and all that, and when your why is bigger than yourself, it sometimes it's like that's the only thing that gets you through those hard times and keeps you going. Because sometimes if it's just for ourselves or our own ego, it's not a strong enough why. When you are so burnt out and you feel defeated and you feel like self-doubt's entering your mind, it's like money isn't a strong enough why, because you can go get another job and get money. You know what I mean? It's like really peeling back the layers on what you're doing and really getting to that true why that means so much to you. And for some people, it's, I'm going to change this generation of my family. Where I come from is not where I'm going. I'm not going to have my children go through what I went through, right? And that why is huge. It doesn't have to be a why to go change the outside world. It might be a why to change inside your own home. And sometimes just like not just just not giving up and just keeping going is the difference too in making it. You know what I mean?
Oh, so how do you do that then when you're in a moment? So you've got your why, very strong why. You're going to impact women and how they feel about themselves. It's not just like you want to make them super glamorous. It's like you're going to change how they feel about themselves, and that can lead to so many incredible things: being a better mother, being a better wife, being a better employee, a better business owner, whatever it is. I think that can really lead to something. So you've got your strong why. Now you've got your strong why, but you only have $1,000 left.
Yes, I know.
How is the why strong enough to get you through it? Or was there something else that you had to do to tell yourself, like, no, keep going? Because that's where people go like, all right, look, at some point, if something is failing, at some point you have to let it go.
So two things. So for me, and this is so personal to everyone and to what they believe in. For me, faith is huge in my life, and I feel like I hear my faith through my gut feelings. You know, I really do. And there were nights where I was just like, is this what we're supposed to do? That combined with really freaking hard work and like, let's just keep it really real, because sometimes, and I don't know how we're going here to Denny's and all the really real stuff, but what I love about it is, you know, if any of your community has heard any of my story before, they've probably just heard the $1 billion fairy tale. And the real of it is, when we were under $1,000, we were trying to get SBA loans from anyone that would give one. No one would give one, and they shouldn't have, because it's like, you know, you're trying to show a business plan for projected sales when you don't even have any. You know, we were doing 2 to 3 orders a day on our website, but you know what? It's a choice. I chose, instead of having a job that paid me a salary, I chose to be an entrepreneur, and it's like, okay. But you got to hustle, and you got to, you know, sometimes that's what you have to just do.
Because you didn't take like a day off, right? You guys, you and your husband worked like 100-hour work week, 7 days a week for 10 years.
For 10 years.
And I think it, like you said, it's important to stress that. You freaking busted your ass.
Yeah, we did. And it was like when we got down to $1,000, we went and spent part of it on IKEA desks to put in the living room, because we had an in-person office tour with California Bank and Trust, which was the last bank that was going to consider giving us an SBA loan. And but that, you know, we got the last person said yes on the SBA loan, which kept us alive a little bit longer. We were still only doing the 2 to 3 orders a day from our website, and right around that time we got a first yes finally for QVC, but we had one shot and only 10 minutes. And
you'd been going after QVC for a long time,
going
right?
after him for a long time and always hearing no. I remember, oh my gosh, like the number of no's from everybody. And so there is a guy named Alan Burke who was like the head of beauty at QVC, and he got all of those like really high-end department store beauty brands to really want to go on QVC and all the designer brands. And so he was the head of all of it. And I remember one day I finally got, I think it was a call from his assistant saying he wants to have a call with you. He's reviewed your product. And I like thought this was going to be our big break. And he was very quick, and he said, I reviewed your product with our buyers, and you're not the right fit for QVC. I'm sorry, and I wish you the best of luck. And I just remember crying myself to sleep that night. And just, you know, have you ever like had something happen where, you know, that goes wrong or doesn't go your way, and then like the next day you wake up and you like hoped it was a dream?
Yes.
And then you're like, it wasn't.
You have to relive it almost, yes.
Yes.
So for you, in those moments, you're hearing no over and over again. Most people would have stopped at number 1.
Yeah.
A lot of people would have stopped at number 2. Majority would have stopped at number 3. You kept going. This was like years and years and years of you like hounding Sephora and QVC. And so what is it? Is it just your innate ability to get back up? Or did you have to coach yourself in your mind to say, no, you believe in this, remember your why? Like, what does that actually look like?
Both. I feel like when I look back on things, and this is what I love, it's like even if you're in a space right now in your life where you're like, this isn't where I want to be, I would just trust it, because I look back at like when I was a news anchor. I would get emails that were so mean, like, are you pregnant? Are you, right? I had a news director at one of my jobs that would just tear me to shreds, appearance-wise, stuff like that. And I really feel like it helped me get really strong, so that rejection started to hurt a little less, but it still hurts. But resiliency is like the most important skill, I think. I think what's tricky is going, okay, am I putting good money after bad, right? Which is like a famous saying, meaning, does every sign tell me this is a bad idea? And do I keep wasting my time and money? You know what I mean? That's the hardest thing to know, especially when you're building your business. And for me, the deciding factor for me was praying about it and realizing that I needed to keep my faith bigger than my fear, because I just felt in my gut what I was doing mattered and it was needed. I think fear kills more dreams than like almost anything else. Self-doubt and fear, I think, kills more dreams than almost anything. I was reading that famous Jay-Z quote where he says, the genius thing we did was we never gave up. And it's like, it's so true sometimes. And what's crazy is I would have saved myself so many nights of crying myself to sleep had I known what I know now, which is just that if you're doing something novel or that's different, that hasn't been done before, of course, all these people that are experts aren't going to get it right away, because it's never been done before. So there's no proof out there that tells them, oh yeah, this is a good idea, or oh yeah, this is going to succeed in your stores, or, it's never been done before. So I shouldn't have been surprised that all these people that I thought were like, they would know if, they're going to see our product and like love it right away. And the other thing I learned was, by persistence and by not letting those no's destroy every ounce of confidence I had, and every single person that told us no has now told us yes. But some of them told us no for years and many, many, many times. And here's the crazy thing, and I don't know the answer to this, but what I do know, Lisa, is had I listened to a lot of the ways they told me to change our product or change our positioning, had I listened to that, I don't think our brand would have worked. I don't think I'd be sitting here having sold it to L'Oreal, because L'Oreal has a lot of other great brands that do what's already been done really well. They're the best at it in the world. Had I not done something totally different that went against what all these other experts were saying to do, I wouldn't have created something of value that complemented their portfolio. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's Peter Diamandis. I think he said this. The day before a breakthrough is just another dumb idea, and it's like, it's so true. Because you're getting no's a million times. You're also telling people, people are being mean. Like in my intro, I said someone said to you, who's ever going to buy makeup from you? Yeah. So again,
that was one of the toughest things I've ever dealt with in my own head. Because what had happened was, so we had no money, as you know, as we've covered, and this investor who he had invested in a lot of consumer product companies. So he had a big, he was the head of a big private equity firm, and a lot of companies I love were his products that he had invested in and sold. Okay. And we finally got a meeting with him, and he was super interested.
So it's someone you're super excited about. Yes. Someone you're amped about, someone
have
you
a lot
admire,
of respect for.
Respect.
Yes.
Okay, makes it even worse.
I know, and they loved our idea of what we were doing with our products, with our company. I'm like, this is amazing, because if they invest in us, then A, we're not gonna go bankrupt tomorrow, and B, maybe they can help us get into these retail stores. And like, I was so excited. And then I'll never forget this. In person, this guy was like a foot and a half from me, and they said, we've decided to pass on the investment. It's a no. And I said, well, can you share with me a little bit why? Because feedback's always a gift, even when we don't want to hear it. And he said, well, do you want me to be honest with you? And I said, yes. And he goes, I'm not sure if women will buy makeup from someone who looks like you, with your body and your weight, is what he said to me. And I remember looking at him and just like, while I tried to handle it with grace and just say thank you for your feedback, I knew so strongly in my gut in that moment. So it was this combination of being hurt, really obviously hurt, but I just had this strong gut feeling that said he's wrong. Like, he's wrong. And sometimes you just need to like bust out Google and just inspire yourself. So I remember after he said that, just for myself, I would look up so many of the people I admire most, who I think are just making huge changes in the world. And I would ask myself, if they changed their body, would they do better? No. Like, if they got all skinnier, got all whatever it is, like, people that change the world, what they look like, I think is irrelevant. I think it's how they feel, it's their heart, it's their intentions. And I would just, fill myself up with stuff like that, just to get myself back to that place of confidence again. And when we finally, so here's the thing, we got to a beauty show, this big beauty show in New York City. There are 6,000 women there. And they walk the show, and what happens in the show, this is how we got on QVC, by the way. If you're a brand that's had a new product launch that year, you can pay money to go there. You get a 3-foot table and you demonstrate your product. And so we had signed up to do it. And the hope by doing this is that the 6,000 women walking and testing out all the new products, that one of them will, work for a department store and get you in there, or one of them will, or they'll vote on your product and you'll get one of the awards. And so we were there doing that, and QVC had a huge booth there. And you're supposed to stay, you're not allowed to leave your 3-foot table, but I kept like trying to sneak away to see like if there were the buyers at the QVC booth, and I'd rush back to my table. And what I didn't realize is one of the women that I'd been showing the product to was a QVC show host, and I didn't recognize her and at the time, and I don't know if I was just spacing out or what. And so I was showing her the product and like telling her how much, why it exists and why it's different and special. And she said, my name is Miss Lisa Mason. I'm a QVC show host. And I just looked at her and she goes, I want you to know, I think your concealer is really special, and I think our women at home, our QVC gals, they would love this product. And I want you to know, I just went and told the buyer, I think we should have your product on. And I looked at her, and tears just started streaming down my face, and I think I freaked her out. She's like, oh, sugar, I don't have any, like, she's like, oh, what did I just say?
Yeah,
she's like, I don't have any power to get I just want to let you know I did this, I believe in you. And I was like, thank you. And I was like, can I send you product? She's like, no, sugar, but I just want to let you know. So long story short, we got a meeting at QVC, and we got a yes. But what that meant was we have 10 minutes, one airing of 10 minutes, and you either hit their sales goal or you don't come back, right? And what I know now that I didn't know at the time is you might have 10 minutes, but if you're live on the air and you're not hitting numbers, all of a sudden your clock will go from 10 to 6. And then you're like, and you can't panic, and you have to have fun, and you can't try to sell, because the second you try to sell, nothing sells.
Nothing sells.
Nothing sells. So, and it'll be at 6 minutes, and like if it's really not doing well, it cuts to 2. And what's so hard is you're live on national television, and in the back of your head, I just lost a product, or I just lost, like, it's so much pressure. Thankfully, I didn't know that part in the first airing, but what I did know was we had 10 minutes and we had to hit a sales target or never come back. And we needed to sell over 6,000 units of our concealer in that 10-minute window. And I just felt like, okay, if women can see this live on television, how it works, and they can see how it will, change their lives, I can show it live on TV. And I just felt like this is it. And then here's where this appearance stuff resurfaced, right? And for any woman out there or man who struggles with do what I look matter? Does my weight matter? Does my size matter? Do my clothes matter? It sucks when sometimes things all around us tell us they do, right? And this is a moment where I had to make a decision where everything was on the line for my business. And what had happened, Lisa, was we had met with there's all these outside consultants, and they help a lot of people do well on television. And they'll give you advice like, here's how you do your demonstrations, and here's the type of models to use, and here's what to say and not to say. And when I met with all the consultants, they all told me I needed to do this formula to work on air, which was cast only perfect skin models, all like the same age and skin tone and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, but I want to show my bright red rosacea and show how this works for me. And I want to show real women that are different ages and have different skin problems. And I want women all across the country that have never seen a model who looks like them and skin that looks like theirs. I want to show them live why I made this product. And every single consultant said that will not work. And if I want to have any chance of succeeding in my business, that I will do what they're saying, which is to do the formula, the only formula that had ever worked in beauty. And it was the most stressful probably moment of my whole career and decision of my whole career, because everything was on the line.
Yeah, break it down, and then how you decided to just ignore them and do your own thing, because like you said, everything's on the line. What did that process look like for you, where you said they're experts, but I'm still not going to listen?
So I was freaking out. I flew out to QVC a week early.
I love the honesty, by the way. That's
oh my gosh. It was, and it's so funny. Because we had no money, so I took this, it was like 3 or 4 connections, because it was the cheapest way to get to Philly. I got there, I was in a rental car, and I drove to the QVC parking lot every single day for a week, and I sat there, literally trying to envision what was going to happen in that 10 minutes, almost like the way I imagine Olympic athletes envision success. And I just knew in that moment, like I knew what I needed to do. I knew that if I went on QVC and did what everyone else had done, maybe my business would have succeeded at that time. But it wouldn't have been authentic to who I am. I'm not a makeup artist. I don't do makeup artist looks on people. It's not why I created the brand. It's not my why. So I would have been putting money and fear above the why I did this. And I just remember sitting in the parking lot and knowing even if I try and I go out there and I show my bare face, which is the last thing I want to do on national television, showing my bright red rosacea, but it wasn't about me. It was about, I wanted to shift culture in beauty. I wanted there to be models that look like real women. I imagine real women all across the country who have forgotten that they're beautiful and have forgotten that they matter. And I realized in that moment, if I don't sell and we miss the sales goal, at least for that 10 minutes, there will be women that turn their television on and they see models, aspirational models, who I'm standing on television calling beautiful, that look like them. And I'm showing women with skin problems and issues, and I want them to know we're all in this together, like we've all got this. But it was so scary, and I remember the camera goes live, the clock's at 10 minutes, and I remember it started counting down. And and I had this demonstration planned on my wrist, right, where I put these 2 beautiful department store concealers that are top sellers and ours, and I would bend my wrist and show they start breaking up and cracking, right, and ours doesn't, which is why it would cover my rosacea. So I had this thing planned and I started doing it, but I was so stressed out. TV, I'm not nervous for. It was the business, the weight of everything, and my hand was like this. And I was like,
just like shaking like crazy.
And I was trying to show, and finally Lisa's like, "Thank you, sugar." And she shoves my hand under the podium that we're presenting from. And I remember at the 10-minute mark, literally the 10-minute mark, the sold out sign came up. And I just looked at Lisa and I just started crying. Because I was like, it was like real women had spoken. I'm so glad I listened to my gut. And I think sticking with the authenticity of our brand, even when everyone was saying it wasn't going to resonate, is why it's the only reason that we now built a $1 billion company.
How did you get your job? AKA, how did you find yourself doing the work you're doing today?
You know, I always, since the time I was little, Nathan, I always sort of knew I would be an entrepreneur one day. I thought that, like I would, save candy that I would get at a holiday. And then I would think, how can I sell this? And so I always kind of had that inkling. But then I actually thought growing up that I would do something totally different. I would sit in my living room and watch Oprah every day as a little girl. And I thought one day I'm gonna share other people's stories with the world. And so, growing up, I kind of had my sights set on that. And I did all kinds of jobs, from waitressing at Denny's to pushing grocery carts in the parking lot, and all those things, slicing meat in the deli. And I eventually landed in what I thought was my dream job, which was anchoring television news and sharing people's stories with the world. And like so many entrepreneurs, I had a big problem happen that I couldn't solve. And I kind of had this big aha moment where I was like, oh my gosh, if there's hundreds of companies out there that do this and none of them work for me, like, what if I just try to figure it out? And so, now everyone sees, It Cosmetics, the company that I started in my living room, as this sort of like $1 billion brand. But how it really started was I was thinking I was in one dream job, thinking I would stay there forever on television news. And I learned this big lesson that sometimes knowing when to go after a dream, or I should say when to let go of a dream, matters as much as when to go after one. And I was just, I was anchoring the news every day and live on camera. And I developed a skin condition called rosacea. So for me, like my cheeks, my forehead, my nose, everything would get really, really red and bumpy. And so I started, spending my whole paycheck on makeup products. And I tried everything out there, from the most expensive stuff to the least expensive, and nothing would work. And there was one moment, Nathan, that was sort of the pivotal moment for me, which was, I was live on air, and all of a sudden I hear in my earpiece from the producer, there's something on your face. There's something on your face. You need to wipe it off. You need to wipe it off. And I'm live over the airways, and I glanced down into my little compact mirror off the side, and I knew what it was. It was that the makeup was kind of breaking up, almost the way, like, if you imagine clay in a desert starts to crack, it was like cracking on my face, and the redness, the bright red skin was coming through. And my producer had no idea what it was. He just thought, like, wipe it off, get it off. And I knew there was nothing I could wipe off. I kept trying to reapply makeup, and it wasn't working. And so this sort of started, what I thought was a season of setback in my life. I thought, like, am I going to get fired? Are viewers changing the channel? Because every single time I would go on the air live, it would happen, right? Because the hot HD lights would start to break up the makeup. And so I would find myself in the same situation. And it was, and then I realized, like, okay, if I can't find anything out there, and there's hundreds of makeup companies, I can't find anything that works for me, there must be so many other people out there that maybe have just given up on makeup or feel like they've never found anything for them. And so, for every person who is a founder or an entrepreneur listening right now, or maybe someone who hasn't taken the leap yet, but they're listening and reading the Founder because they know they want to one day, I want to share that, because this is really important. It's easy to see the outcome and the success story, but for a long time, Nathan, I had this idea, like, what if I launch my own company? What if I do it? And my gut told me I was supposed to do it. Like, I couldn't shake that feeling. But for a long time, I didn't do it because my head was sort of talking me out of it. I would think things like, oh, but you're not qualified, and you don't have any money, and you don't have any connections, and you know what I mean? And so many people, I'm sure, have already tried to do it. And if there's nothing that works, what makes you think you can? And just all of those thoughts that we tend to have. And when I look back now, I am so glad I listened to my gut and went for it and took the big chance, even though it was much harder than I could have imagined. Because I think so often in life, our gut's telling us one thing, but then our head is telling us another, and our life comes down to which one we listen to. So.
Yeah, wow. What a crazy story. So can you tell me I'm just curious, how long did you have this idea in your head?
Well, it was a couple of years because I was just trying to find anything that would work. And, one thing that happened that sort of put me over the edge that I think is really important just to share, especially with anyone out there who, whatever phase they're at in their business or their entrepreneurial journey, is early on, I had a blessing that I look back now and go, thank goodness that happened. And it's really what put me over the edge to really launch this thing and go for it. And, we hear so many amazing thought leaders talk about your why and identifying the why of your business and your brand and your mission. And what I know now, because I've now had the gift of just meeting tens of thousands of entrepreneurs over the years. And a lot of people, I think, they think their why is strong enough, but they haven't actually done the work to peel back the layers and like go deeper and get to the why beneath the why that's so powerful that they can lean on it when the times are super tough and they're tempted to quit. And when I look back at this moment after having this idea for a couple years, one thing that happened so, I guess, serendipitously, or out of sheer grace, I should say, is that, initially I thought like, oh, okay, I can just create a makeup product that if it works for me, it'll probably work for so many other people. So my why could have very easily been like, oh, I'll solve my own problems, but I'll help so many other people too. And I think a why like that is why so many entrepreneurs fail. And here's what I mean by that. Because when we share a why like that with someone else, they're like, that's great. That's so virtuous. That's awesome. And then we think it's enough. We think it's enough if we have a why that's I'm going to help people or this or that. Because, I did want to help people. But what happened, and I want to call this out for anyone listening, because I think this is really important. Challenge yourself, whatever you believe your mission or your personal why is for your own company. And this isn't something that has to be part of your mission statement. I'm more talking about as a founder, your personal why for why you're doing what you're doing, or perhaps why you have a big goal that you're working on. Is take your why, but then literally go deeper, like peel back the layers and try to go deeper to the deep why beneath the why. And in my case, what happened is I realized like at this one moment, and this is what put me over the edge to launch everything, was like, I was like, I don't understand. This makes no sense that there are so many companies. Why do none of them work for me? And then what I realized was like, wait, I've actually never seen a model who has like bright red rosacea selling makeup products, right? And then I started thinking about growing up as a little girl. And what I realized is every time I would see the beauty ads on television or in magazines, like I loved them. I aspired to, look like them. But at a real deep level, they always made me feel like I wasn't enough. And I had this big moment where I realized like, okay, I want to launch products that work, but what if when I launch a beauty company, what if I can actually use real people as models and like all different ages and shapes and sizes and skin tones and skin challenges and call them beautiful and mean it. And what if I could actually like shift the definition of beauty inside the entire industry for every little girl out there who's about to start doubting herself and every grown person who still does. And it was kind of this huge, crazy idea for someone that was sitting there with no money, no connections, not sure how it was even going to happen. But I got that deep, deep, deep why that was so not just painful, but really meaningful, purposeful for me. And that came early on. And, after I jumped into entrepreneurship and, poured every penny I had into it, I didn't know it would be 3 years before I could even afford to pay myself at all. I didn't know that I would get hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of no's. And I think that as founders, as entrepreneurs, as people with big dreams on our heart, we need like a toolbox of things we can pull from that help us maintain our resiliency. And for me, I think one of those real important tools was really that deep, 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 meaningful why, where I realized, okay, what I'm doing is bigger than myself. It's not just about me, right? And the last thing I'll say to this really quickly, because I think sometimes people think their why has to be some like global, grandiose, thing. Sometimes your why, your deep why, may have nothing to do with your actual company, but your deep why may be like, I'm going to be the first person in generations of my family to break a cycle of poverty or of lack, or I'm going to be the first person that, goes for it and doesn't let self-doubt hold me back in my entire family, right? It could be, there's deep whys, or I want to show my children what it looks like to go after a dream. There's a lot of different whys beneath the why, but I think identifying one of those that really truly hits home is such a key, because being a founder or an entrepreneur at any stage, right? I've kind of seen a lot of different stages, from no money, no one believes in you, you're about to go bankrupt for a few years, to, private equity investment and massive growth, to we built to over 1,000 employees. And when we eventually were acquired by L'Oreal, it was their largest acquisition in the US in their history. And then I was part of the largest beauty company in the world as well. So it's kind of like I've seen inside all those, and they all come with their challenges. But I think no matter what phase you're at, having that deep why beneath the why is super, super important to do the work for. It's worth spending the time in, for sure.
Jamie, you got a magazine shoot today, you were saying. Tell us about what's going on over there.
Yeah, it's the book, my first ever book, Believe It, is launching in just under 5 weeks. We're under 5 weeks away. So I feel like I'm going to blink and it's going to be here. And so it's probably the most vulnerable thing I've ever done, where I just literally pour everything I have and all the things I wish I knew. It would have saved me a million nights crying myself to sleep, and the whole journey of starting in my living room and facing rejection for 3 years straight, solid, and building at cosmetics. And so now the 5 week mark, all the press starts, that it comes out when the book launches. So today is a magazine shoot all day long. And I'll share more soon. But, I was thinking about this, and actually, being MLK Day today, this morning I was in hair, getting ready. I haven't done makeup yet, in hair, and I was watching Dr. Martin Luther King's speeches, some of them, right, which I've done my whole life. And I watched one this morning that's all about growing, actually. It's all about like keeping it moving. And he talked a lot about your life's blueprint. And he was using these words long before so many other people were using them, right? And he talked about your life's blueprint, about how no one else can tell you you're not worthy. And when I was thinking about this, his words, I was kind of having this big aha moment, just to share with everyone in the Growth Day community this morning, in case you go through this too. But like, sometimes it's ourself that's the one telling ourselves we're not worthy. And on a
most
day,
of the time, probably.
Most of the time, yeah.
Most of the time. And you're making up stories about other people thinking you're not worthy.
Yes.
So either you're telling yourself, oh, I'm not worthy, or you're thinking they don't think I'm worthy. And either way, it's a story that's probably, making you feel worse than you really need to.
Exactly. And, on this day, right, I have this big magazine shoot all day. They want 6 different looks, all these things. First of all, I have to fight in my own head the whole imposter syndrome, which is like, how is a girl like me, who is a waitress at Denny's, all these things, doing 6 looks? How do we even figure out what looks are? That's the first thing. Like fashion looks, right? You see me, I love some sweats. I love some comfy sweats, right? So I'm like, okay, 6 looks today.
Does 6 looks mean 6 outfits?
Mm-hmm.
Or does that? Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Because when I do magazine shoots, they usually they show up with stuff and they put it on. I wander around, and that's about it. I'm really.
And that's about it.
I'm the worst. I don't. I don't do press. I decided very early on I didn't want to be in the PR land. So very rarely do I do press. And every time I do, I realize why I don't. It's so exhausting. I really admire people who can do days of press and they do it consistently. We take for granted. It's really exhausting. People are bossing you around all day. You're just kind of wondering when you get to sit down or get to eat. It's a full schedule. Everyone wants to be famous, or they want days of magazine shoots and all that. And then they do their first PR junket in New York. And you do 16 shows in a day. And at the end, it's a privilege and a joy, and it's fun. And at the same time, it's work. You had to get up, you got 5 o'clock today just to prepare and get hair and makeup and everything else getting ready.
Yeah, we had hair at 5, had to get up at 4 to shower, all this stuff. Got to. And here's the thing is like, what a blessing, what a gift that I get to spread the word about the book. Like that's what really drives me, right? But what I'm realizing, and Brendan listening to MLK's speech this morning, Dr. Martin Luther King's speech, talking about telling ourselves we're not worthy, or having other people tell you you're not worthy, exactly what you said. This is a day that the old me, the me that for decades has done lots of different things, and I'm working still, as you know, I'm a lifetime student, still working to grow out of this. The old me for sure would have let my inner critic take over all day and just powered through, hoping like, does this outfit fit? Are they thinking I really should be in this shoot? Are they regretting doing a story on all those things we tell ourselves, right? It doesn't have to be a magazine shoot. It could just be hopping on Zoom for something at work, or, how many times, that we get an invite to a high school reunion. Brendan, I don't know if you'll relate to this, but you coach so many people that I think you'll understand this at such a deep level. We get an invite to a high school reunion or something like that. So many of us, the first thing we think of is, oh, when I show up, how much weight have I gained? How much, all these things, right? To the point where we don't even enjoy it.
Yes.
Yes. I remember a quote. Will you remind us all, if you remember it? There's a quote you said, and I saved it because I look at it often, and it said something about, I'll paraphrase, and then maybe you'll remember it exactly, but you can accomplish all these things, and the worst thing that could possibly happen is you get to the end of your life and you look back and you're like, I forgot to enjoy it.
I forgot to enjoy it. Yes,
enjoy
that's
it.
The worst. Imagine looking in the mirror. You're 80, 90, 100 years old, and you had longevity, but you look in the mirror and you just go, you never felt it. You never enjoyed it. You never took the time to be there. And I also think, coming back to your high school reunion idea, or the magazine shoot, or all of you who are walking in to do, networking in a Zoom room, or when we come back to regular life and we're hanging out with people here again. I love this saying. It's not from me. I can't remember who said it, but I love it. Love it. There's two kinds of people in the world. One walks into the room and goes, "Here I am." And the other person walks in the room and goes, "Oh, there you are." And they're excited to see you. They're excited to acknowledge you, to validate you, to welcome you, to make sure that you feel at home.
Yeah.
And those are the people that we want to be in our lives. Those are that's being the role model, but it's also being, less ego driven. Instead of being so concerned, what do I look like? Who am I like? What's going on here? I've always, the way I got over myself, because everyone still knows and grow, I'm a dork. I love geeking out on personal development. I love books. I love to write. I'm more of even though I teach and I'm, millions and millions of hours of video by now, I generally mostly enjoy being alone, dorking out about my ideas, drawing up, creating ideas and charts and everything everywhere. And so when I go to talk with people, often I want to share that with them. And I have all these ideas. And I know there's lots of people, ideas. I just want to talk ideas. But the best thing I ever did to get over myself and be comfortable with other people is instead ask them about their ideas. Ask about, if you walk into your high school networking, gym and you walk in, instead be like, hey, ask people, hey, how you doing? Hey, what do you think of all this? Yeah. One of my favorite questions, what do you think of all this? Oh, I love the punch bowl, or look at this, or hey, this is happening. I love that we're together. Hey, how you been? Just acknowledging and appreciating other people is such a lost art because we tend to have agendas, because we tend to want to project something. And here's the number one thing. Most people really believe the idea they only have 10 seconds to make a first impression, or they only have 30 seconds to say it right. And I'm like, nothing in life that matters is judged in 30 seconds. In other words, give yourself time to build a relationship. Give yourself time to enjoy that moment. It seems like, well, you have 7 minutes on that major show. I'm like, there's going to be 100 other shows in your future. Some shows you're going to do are an hour-long podcast. Some shows you're going to do are in person. And so I'm just here to say, enjoy it, but also make it about other people. Ask them, validate them, and you'll feel better.
Of course. When we talked about the other day about reading customer letters on QVC, right? It was a whole thing in the green room of putting into practice the idea that I think exactly to your point, it's like, oh, this isn't about me. It's about something so much bigger, right? And I think that's huge. And I was going to ask you actually, because I think this lifelong journey for so many people of overcoming our inner critic, right? And even going to a whole new, transcending the whole new thing and going, oh, who's my inner champion? Can I wake that person up, right?
Yes.
Can I wake up my inner champion? And so many of us are like, oh, inner champion, maybe you haven't heard your inner champion ever, or in a long time. And so, Brendan, coaching millions of people like you have, I'm so fascinated to hear for you, like if you also, or I should say, because I think this is universal, I think this happens to everyone, but when you're in a moment where you're doing something and all of a sudden that inner critic, you hear that inner critic, right? How do you turn down the volume on that? What do you do to silence your inner critic or handle your inner critic or overcome your inner critic and then swap it to your inner champion? Or what are your tools? Because I feel like no matter what we're doing in life, where we're at in life, what our situation is inside our own family, inside our jobs, inside our hopes and dreams, it's just it's the biggest obstacle, I think, for so many of us.
Yeah. I think one, you have to realize that replacing the inner critic in the moment is super hard. And so you have to think of everything you're doing is like, there's the pre-work, there's the actual in the moment flow work, and then there's the post work. The pre-work is, okay, before the inner critic has to start, you start your morning by tapping into your authentic self, meditating, feeling, thinking about who you are, what's important to you, your morning routine of intention setting, your morning routine of purpose statements, your morning routine of filling your head with good thoughts, your morning routine of acknowledging your strength to show up another day, your day of gratitude for appreciating that you have these opportunities. Meaning you got to start the day. The growth day starts with self-talk. And the self-talk, you have to condition the positive voice inside your inner champion. You have to amplify that, turn it up, and talk to it every morning and every day if you ever want that to be louder than the critic. What most people do is they bumble through the day. A doubt comes up. They hear it. They go, is that true? They start amplifying that thing because there's no other voices. Your job is to find your authentic voice, your acknowledging, aware, compassionate, loving self voice. Give that so much volume so many times that's just, that station's louder. Yeah. That station is louder because you're on that station more. So now when the other one starts interfering and coming in, you can go, oh, what is it saying here? And it's almost always, the inner critic is really a doubtful voice. Yeah. It's almost always a doubtful voice. I doubt my capability. I doubt who I am. I doubt I'm capable. I'm worthy. I doubt myself. And doubt doesn't mean stop or shut down. Doubt means, oh, this is a signal to be more present and intentional. Oh, this isn't to question myself and my capabilities. It's going, oh, hey, I don't know if I can do this. Let me pay attention. Doubt's a great signal to pay attention and to engage the best of who we are. It's like, oh, those butterflies, that's saying, oh, let's align here. Let's get focused here. Let's bring some attention to this. So first, don't think that voice will ever go away. It's going to be there. It's always going to pop up. But don't think it's a negative thing telling you you're terrible. It's saying pay attention. And then also up the station on that authentic, acknowledging, loving self-talk each day, the affirmative side of who you are. Listen to that so often and give yourself that blessing so often, because some of you, it's not going to be your spouse who's going to acknowledge you or validate you. So, some of you, it's not going to be your parents or your sister, your brothers, or the people in your industry. They're all going to doubt you or judge you or push you. So you've got to affirm yourself. You've got to tap into that truth, that knowing, that beauty, that soul, that spirit, that authenticity that says, why? I do deserve to have a good day today. I do have good intentions for today. Let me listen to that part of me more often. And that conditioning of positive, affirming self-talk starts becoming a part of real confidence, right? Conditioned self-talk becomes confident capability.
So good. You know, I'm looking at so many of your comments right now, and so many people are saying this is so timely. I needed to hear this right now because, you know, one of the things I love about this is when we talk about even conditioning and starting our day that way with positive self-talk. I hope the Growth Day Morning Show is a big part of that, of just hearing that, you know, inspiration, like all of us coming together and growing. But, you know, one person also, this Sarah, just commented that, you know, the inner critic always comes back, right? And you're saying, yeah, it always comes back. And here's the thing is, I feel like our inner critic can get so loud. And I feel like so many of us know when we're hearing it, when we're hearing that inner critic, A, we would never say those things to another human being. And B, when we're saying them about ourselves, we kind of still know, in big part, we know they're not true, but but somehow we still, it's so easy to believe it. It's easy to know we're made for more. We're created for more. We have more to give, more to offer, more to serve, more inside of us than we're expressing or giving or living right now. And yet it's so easy to still doubt it anyways, right?
What if the inner critic was an inner guide? And the inner critic was just saying to you, hey, right now, you've got your station turned on to me, the inner critic, the, you know, the low station, the self-doubt station.
Yeah.
And you, instead of going, oh, that critic's so scary, and let me find all the reasons to criticize me, it's like, oh, the inner critic is actually calling you to summon the better part of you. It's saying, hey, you're listening to the lowly insecurities right now. Let me amplify those insecurities so you're aware that you're listening to them, dummy. What you need to do right now is switch to the other station. I am guiding you with all this blaring noise to summon a higher part of you.
Mm-hmm.
The inner critic is summoning the higher part of you, not shutting you down. It's summoning you. It's not going to go away. There's always going to be that part of you going, hey, dummy, you're smarter, you're better. Hey, let me judge you just enough that you get edgy and you go, no, I'm better than this, and you show up. It's egging you on to show up better, not shut down. As soon as you get that, oh, I'm being egged on like a good friend. Because listen, the inner critic is you.
Yeah.
And that's a good friend to you saying, hey, I'm going to bug you just enough. I'm going to shame you just enough. I'm going to doubt you just enough until you finally go, F no, let's go. I'm going to try to piss you off. That's what the inner critic is going to do. They're there to amplify you to go, no, I am better than this. It is actually summoning strength. And if you can hear that, instead of being diminished, be called. When crisis doesn't diminish you, when conflict doesn't diminish you, when fear doesn't diminish you, but rather you sense it as a calling to rise to something, to a higher standard, to serve, this is why today we celebrate Martin Luther King. Dr. Martin Luther King had the same challenges so many people did. What he did was he said, I have a dream. I'm going to rise up. I'm going to learn to do all of these things that he didn't know how to do, to lead an incredible movement that we still celebrate today. You have to think about it, like, whoa, that's 60 years later. We're still celebrating this person. Why? Because all those calls, all those judgments, all that hate, he said, I'm not going to let the darkness shut me down because it is only light and love that will lift us up. So I'm going to amplify those. You can hit me with all the hate you want, but I'm going to activate love. That's the change. When it's so not a diminishment, but a calling to rise above it, that's a mindset shift that now helps us activate. I hope that helps everybody.
So good, you guys. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So many comments. So many comments.
I appreciate each of you. And thank you for cheering me and Jamie on in this Growth Day morning show. This is new for us too. We both had doubts. We had our first couple of days were technologically challenged on both sides. I still think I look so goofy with these white things hanging in my ear. I still got this camera taped up with this blue tape over here. Jamie's got hers. So we're still figuring it out, but we feel like, okay, so what? We're not doing it perfectly. We are called to serve. Stop worrying if you show up perfectly or you look perfect. Show up to serve. And enough times doing that, you're recognized.
So good what you said. And I always, one of the things I think about a lot is we all face opposition, right? Sometimes it is our inner critic, but we also all have a calling. And I think that so many times, I believe always, your calling is stronger than your opposition. But so much of life comes down to which one we listen to.
Yes.
And you talk about, Dr. Martin Luther King, and I think obviously so much opposition, during his time, and obviously his calling was so much bigger, right? And that's what he listened to. And I think that, I don't know, I just keep going back to those words you shared earlier too, about walking into a room and instead of saying, here I am, saying, here you are, right? I think that's when we make it not about us and it's something so much bigger than us. For me, I think that's, in my journey, that's, how one of my best strategies for overcoming that inner critic, because for me, that inner critic is there every single day. Every single day. I even doubted, even though I've gone on national television thousands of times with no makeup. This is my first Growth Day morning show in no makeup. And I had a moment where I'm like, but it's like, oh, no. The only way to have authentic human connection is to fully show up as ourselves. The only way to serve is to not worry about stuff like that literally doesn't matter, right? And so it's kind of growth in progress, growth in process, I think, for so many of us, and some of the tips you shared on how you frame in your own mind that inner critic. I've never heard that before. That's so powerful. That's so powerful, as if it's the station summoning you to get so angry that you're like, F that, and you transcend it. Huge.
Yeah, it's your best friend egging you on, saying, oh, it's like if your best friend was like, oh yeah, you suck. And you're like, hold it. It's just like if you ever saw people playing sports and you're playing basketball with someone, the crap talking is done to summon a higher level of game. They've actually measured this in communication studies in sports. Less crap talk tends to lead to less incredible performance. And it's not because we're not diminishing each other. We're egging each other on to play at a higher level. Now, I know there's lots of judgment about even that in sports, but I think my point is recognizing that all your inner fears aren't meant to shut you down. They're meant to help you pay attention. You were talking about resistance and all the resistance. And I hope everybody, by the way, spend some time today watching some, speeches from Dr. Martin Luther King. If you haven't read the autobiography, the official biographies, or any of his collected works of speeches, I can't even imagine this day for the last 23 years this year now. I read his speeches. I have a big book that my dad gave me that I just read his speeches. And it's so, so powerful to see what he was willing, and not just him, the entire Southern Christian Leadership Conference and so many other great leaders of that time, trying to really speak up for something. And he said, if our main question is, who were you serving? And he said that if we aren't willing to speak up for what is right, then we're not living life. And so many of his great quotes that everyone will share on the internet today, I'm sure, just remind us to stand for something. Even if you are scared, stand for something. You're not doing a magazine shoot today. You're standing for something today. You're standing for a message. Yeah. We aren't worried about our insecurities of, I'm like, is my kettlebell in the shot today? I hope not, and I don't even care. It's like we stand for something at Growth Day. We stand for the belief that you can grow, that you can change, that you can have better days, that you can shift your attitude. We stand for something. So we're not trying to make everything pretty. You're going to stand for something today. And everyone needs to realize, what do you stand for today? What is it that you stand for? And the less you ask yourself that, the more the insecurity voice just fills it in. Oh, you aren't intentional enough to stand for something? Let me just fill it in with some noise here.
Yeah.
That's what happens. I would say your negative self-talk is because you haven't filled in the void.
Yeah, so good.
You got to. I work on this. Look at this. I got this. I pulled this off the desk. This is a calendar of affirmations from Hay House. This is Louise Hay. I hope you all read "You Can Heal Your Life" from Louise Hay. Louise Hay and Wayne Dyer, who were like who really made and rounded out Hay House with Reed Tracy as CEO. It's a whole book of affirmations. I've been doing personal development for 20 years professionally. I still read my affirmations and I read them out loud because I want that voice to be activated. I would love for you all in your morning routine to read out your Bible verses or read out your favorite motivational quotes, or read out that part of that spiritual text that you love. Read something out, like activate the voice. You've been given voice. You have the blessing of speaking. You've been given voice. Activate that in a positive, affirming way. And it becomes a language pattern in your head that's louder than the insecure, quiet things. You know what I mean?
Talk about some of the struggles that you've had with anxiety, with self-doubt. We've all been there. The biggest enemy is between our ears, imposter syndrome. I still struggle with that. I don't think it ever goes away. You talk about body doubt and God doubt. I have never heard God doubt, though. What is that?
Yeah, I think my whole journey really is figuring all of that out. And I think, for me and a lot of people, when I built It Cosmetics, right, we started in our living room, and my whole journey was just filled with no's. Sometimes you'll see a founder launch an idea or a product or whatever, and it will get hot right away. And that wasn't my experience. My journey was, and by the way, to answer your question, figuring out how to overcome not just self-doubt and body doubt, but God doubt was critical in my journey of starting with literally no money in my living room, building a $1 billion company, because it was really a journey of so much rejection and hearing so many no's along the way, and learning how to, well, first of all, I prayed like crazy, but I also doubted God exists a lot in my life. And I really learned in my journey how to turn down the noise and the volume on self-doubt and other people's opinions. For me, when I pray and I just get this gut feeling, like I think I've never heard God talk, but for me, in my own personal faith, I believe, God talks to me through my intuition. I think when I get a really strong gut feeling, I've learned to trust it. And for me, it's really been a big journey of keeping my faith bigger than my fear. I go there, like in my new book, Believe It, I go there. When I built a company of over 1,000 employees, you have to be so professional and respectful. And I intentionally hired teams of every different faith, of no faith, I believe that not just our teams, but our boardrooms should look like our customers do. And our customers at Cosmetics are every person, every age and shape and skin tone and gender identity and faith and background. And so I really intentionally hired a team that way. And so my personal faith wasn't something I talked openly about very much in the whole journey. And so, but I think for me, it's like the espresso inside the latte. It's like, if you don't have it, it's not the same in my journey. So I talk about that really openly a lot, Nicole. And I think that I really think it's important we share like the real stories behind the stories if we're ever going to really grow together. And, I was raised going to church every Sunday, but I didn't connect with faith. I would just sit through church and scan the pews looking for cute boys, like counting down the minutes until the sermon was over. And so most of my life, while I was in a family that had faith, I would pray, but the truth is I would kind of like doubt that God was real. And one of the stories I talk about in the book is the journey of God doubt. And there was a moment in my life where I was having a really tough time. It was actually in news. I was in news at the time. And it was the first time in my life I was dealing with anxiety and all these things. And anyways, a therapist said to me when I was saying to her, I don't even know if God's real. I'm doubting he exists. I'd found out I was adopted. So I was like, I don't know where I come from. And anyways, long story short, she said to me, well, what makes you think God can't handle your doubt? And I'm like, what do you mean? And she goes, tell him you doubt him and ask him to prove you wrong. And I was like, okay. So this started like a decade-long journey of every time I'd be praying for a friend's health or something. And at the end I would say, by the way, God, like literally in the middle of my prayer, like silently, but I'd be like, I'm doubting you exist. So if you could please prove me wrong, beyond a shadow of a doubt, I'd be so grateful. Thank you. Amen. And I share in the book just some of the crazy, crazy, crazy stories of what happened. And some of them even with investors, potential investors, with retailers who had said no to our product for so many years, like calling me out of the blue saying, I don't know why, but like I was praying last night and I got this feeling that you're supposed to be in our store. And it'd be like the weirdest conversation. So anyways, I share a lot of that stuff in the book that I've never shared before because I think these are real conversations. A lot of times, you look on social media, you see founders, entrepreneurs, you can read business tips all day long. But at the end of the day, as you mentioned in the beginning of this, I really believe for every one of us, every founder listening right now, every person who's going to be part of this or watch the replay, us living up to our potential, us stepping into our calling, us becoming the person we're born to be. It's not business tips you can find anywhere. It's about figuring out the game in our own head of overcoming that self-doubt and all the other forms of doubt in our life in order to truly become the person we're born to be.
It's about telling that mean girl or that mean guy inside your head to take several seats. You call it an inner critic. Do you think she ever really goes away?
No, I think that inner critic can get so loud. And I think that so often, and especially as women, right, you look at a lot of the research out there that shows that we'll often make decisions by consensus, right? Like you'll see, even it's from the time we're little kids, you'll ask an opinion and we do this still as adults, ask an opinion. And typically women will go, oh, and they'll take a survey, friends or family, and then we have our own inner critic. And what I think happens to a lot of us is we start to confuse that inner critic or that inner self-doubt or other people's opinions with our own truth, with our own knowing that we all have. I believe we all have a knowing. And I believe our gut is always more stronger than anyone else's advice. But I think what happens so often is that inner critic gets so loud and we don't learn how to literally when I hear my own inner critic, and I don't think it ever goes away. I imagine myself turning down the volume and replacing thoughts with something that I know is true or that I just want to decide is true anyway. and that's more, more empowering. And I think, I started at cosmetics in our living room, close to no money. And I poured every penny I had into the business. And I thought, okay, if we can create just a great product that really works, it's just going to sell. And then as so many founders have also shared this experience, I was like, oh, it's not that easy. You can have an amazing product. And, I really did a lot of work on, and I talk about this and believe it a lot about not just figuring out the why for my brand, but peeling back the layers on it, going really, really deep to the why beneath the why that helps, because that's what really gives you the strength to keep going when you get knocked down. And I had done all those things, but what I wasn't ready for was, or I guess I should say, wasn't ready that was going to happen, was just how much rejection would happen along the way. And when people tell us no, or a lot of other words, right? Like when people literally look us in the eye and say like, you're not the right fit for us or our customers, you're not right for our stores. It's not just a no right now. It's just, it's a real no. Like you're not the right. And you just hear people or change who you are to fit in, or change your packaging, or change this or change that. I think often when we get rejection, it can actually be helpful. Like there's parts of it, there's other people's advice, experts' advice that could be really helpful in forms of rejection. But if we don't learn how to get still and hear, turn down our own inner critic, turn down the part of us that wants to replay the rejection over and over, if we don't learn how to get still and turn down the volume on that and really check in with our gut and go, okay, this retailer just told me change my packaging to this, or that this isn't right, or whatever. Does that feel right to me? Does that advice feel right to me? Right? I'm telling you, like, had I not learned to do that, I would have never built $1 billion company, because on the journey of building at cosmetics, the first 3 years were hundreds and hundreds of no's. Like all of the retailers I love and shop at my whole life. And like, I would save my tip money as a waitress at Denny's to like buy a MAC lipstick or Lancome eyeliner from these beautiful stores. I love these stores. And they were all telling me no, that I needed to change who I was, or change our packaging, or our packaging was too accessible. It needed to be way high, way more luxurious, or I was using real people as models. And, and at the time when I launched at cosmetics, it wasn't really being done. And I had a lot of retailers say, people will not buy makeup from images that look like them. Like they need, and they would explain this to me in detail. They would say things to me like, you need to have an unattainable image of beauty that someone could never hope to achieve for them to buy your product. And I'm like, okay, or maybe people are sick and tired of seeing people that don't look like them, because for me, I have rosacea, bright red, bumpy everywhere on my cheeks and my nose and my forehead. And I couldn't find makeup that worked for me, right? My whole company started with a problem I didn't know how to solve. And I realized, I've never seen any models, but, selling makeup that look like me, that have skin challenges. And then I would try all the products and they wouldn't work. And so I just kind of had this gut feeling, well, if I, am this age or size or skin tone or have the skin challenge or whatever it is, and I don't see someone who is showing me the product works for them, how do I know it works for me? It was just intuitive to me, but it wasn't being done. And they all told me, like, if you want to get in our stores, here's what you need to do. And those are the moments, Nicole, that define our lives, when our gut tells us one thing, but like in my case, I had no money. I was, if we were going to, for 3 years, I didn't know how we were going to stay in business. Right. And I made the decision to listen to my gut and to not change what it was telling me about what to do with our brand. And that is, I believe, critical to ever building anything that lasts or anything that matters. When you change who you are authentically, and I even when it comes to your product or your positioning or, your vision, when you start changing that because you want to get into a store or get onto someone's site who's huge, or, whatever it is, it's a short-term pop in revenue, and it feels good for a minute, but long-term, I think it's one of the biggest reasons why tens of thousands of founders don't make it, because they start getting distracted by what everyone else tells them is right for their brand or is hot or is going to make them money. And they dilute their own authentic secret sauce. And at the end of the day, you can't fake authenticity, and customers are smart and they know it. And over time, it never works when you go against what you authentically know for your brand.
Do you think intuition is grossly misunderstood and underrated?
I think it's misunderstood because I think that we have so much noise around us. I believe, Gary, like every person listening, whether they're 12 years old or 112 years old, I think we all have intuition, like a knowing inside of us. And I think our knowing's always right. I think our knowing is more.
I'm sorry, finish.
No, I was going to say, I think our knowing is more powerful even than anyone else's advice. But I think that we have so much noise around us, from other people's opinions to our own self-doubt, right? That it gets so loud, we start to not even be able to hear our own intuition anymore. So most people haven't even heard their own intuition in a long time, or they don't know how.
I would tell you that I couldn't applaud that POV more. It is my belief that my happiness, which matters to me the most, and then my success, which I have pride in my professional life, is 100% predicated on my inability to compromise my intuition. I believe intuition is uncomfortably misunderstood. I believe that A students and very narrow, kind of rigid thinkers, which most people are, have demonized intuition. I think intuition is looked upon as careless and is positioned as silly or flaky or whatever else you want to call it. And I will tell you that it is basically something that I've started exploring with myself. And I believe it is a category of information that I will talk a lot more about, because basically everything good that I've decided that has gone on to be very, very good has been far more based on intuition than anything else.
I have the exact same experiences. Like like how I broke through this crazy crowded beauty space and built something that ended up passing all of the companies I used to save my tip money as a Denny's waitress to buy in department stores, was literally figuring out how to hear my own intuition and then trust it. That's the other part of it, right? And like, I love that you're talking about this. And by the way, for so many people, that's how they hear God or their faith, whatever faith they practice, right?
Correct.
Or even the universe, they hear it through their own intuition. And I think it's your superpower. That's what I think. I think that it's literally the one thing that changes everything. That if I were an entrepreneur or even just someone that wanted to go after a dream, or I mean, that's the biggest thing I would focus on, is how do I tune into and hear my own gut, and how do I differentiate that from all the noise around me or other people's opinions.
What is your intuition? Funny. I do say that a lot. I just realized. What is your intuition on the other ingredient needed for this to actually work, which is the ability to be comfortable with failure? Because I'll tell you, the reason I'm in love with my intuition is a couple of reasons. One, humility. My intuition has been the driver of so much success. It has also led to many failures. It is my capacity to be comfortable in my micro failure that has allowed me to continuously trust my intuition. Thoughts?
Yeah, thoughts are, okay, I'm going to say something you might freak out over or disagree with.
I'm really excited.
I think every time your intuition leads you to a failure, I don't think it's a failure. I think it's part of your destiny, and you're destined in your serendipitous journey where you had to build that muscle in order to carry the weight of your success.
So can I stop you? Because I don't think that's crazy at all. It makes me want to ask you something else. Do you believe that your optimism in your blood and soul is also a required ingredient to make what we're talking about here work? Because what I'm thinking about is the people on the other side, right? And now they're listening to two successful people talking about intuition, and they're basically saying, fuck these two. Like, okay, good. But like, you guys got lucky. And I know a million people that have quote unquote got lucky in different levels of success financially, but have happiness of their journey. But it is ingredients. It's a concoction. It is not a straight, like, it's kind of like diseases, right? It's never like, oh, pepper. No, it's like, for example, with COVID, I hear like it's this thing and then the zinc can get in. It's mixtures, right? HIV, right? It was a cocktail. I'm listening carefully to you. We went intuition. Now what I want to know, then we went with capacity to be comfortable with failure, AKA humility. Now I'm asking you, because your answer is like, no, Gary, let me send you a different way. And I'm with you on this. I do them as micro failures, but to your point, life is so serendipitous, you just don't know, but I'm fascinated by the next statement, which looks like this. Do you believe that your optimism allows this all to work? Because if you are looking at losses as in, well, this was meant to be part of my journey and this scar is actually attractive, because that's how I think about it. I think about all those losses as scars, and like that scar giving you character, and that's attractive. Do you believe that optimism was an incredibly big factor and ingredient in your success?
I think optimism is great. I think though that knowing why we're doing what we're doing, listening to our gut and going after our calling, like literally living our calling, I think that's the victory.
Hold on though.
Yeah.
Here's an interesting question. Every human needs levels of affirmation along the way to sustain that. Right? Yeah. And so in the beginning where you're not seeing those results, for many, and you might have, I've always seen results pretty quickly in my good calls. So I always try to think about someone who's not seeing it. So because they don't have optimism, they have delusion, and they think they're going to be, Beyonce when they can't sing, right? Do you feel like believing in your calling gets affirmed along the way? What do you rely on in that beginning? Don't you think blind faith is actually completely grounded in optimism?
I mean, for me, my faith is a huge part of my life.
I'm going to take religion as faith out. I'm saying I'm just thinking about you, young you in this moment, and I'm really fascinated by it. I'm meant to do this because what you're talking about is what I love, which is the journey.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't
I'm
think
trying to
the
get into your,
victory.
go ahead, please.
Yeah. I was gonna say, I don't think the victory is the outcome, right? I don't think the victory. Listen, I know how accomplished you are and everything. I know you're gonna have the New York Jets one day. I know all that, but I don't think that's the victory. I think the victory is the journey of actually like stepping into all of who you are and not talking yourself out of your own truth. And what I mean by that is this journey of that we're talking about, right? Of course, optimism, of course, resiliency to get back up every time you're knocked down, of course, all those things. But I think that so many people listening right now, if they don't ever learn to get still and hear their own truth and hear their own intuition, I think what's going to happen, and this is what happens to most people, is they end up staying in their comfort zone. They end up putting their own immediate failures on a pedestal or other people's opinions or self-doubt. They end up talking themselves out of their own truth. And then they end up never actually becoming the person they're born to be. So for me, I don't think like the fact that I was able to build $1 billion company is the victory. I think the moments of me knowing this is what I'm supposed to do and trusting it, even when it doesn't make sense. And I'll give you one example, okay, of this. So, and maybe this will make sense, because optimism, of course, is important, and I know what you're saying. But I think the biggest thing is learning how to hear yourself and trust yourself. I really believe that. There was a moment
how do you define that as a term? Because I view that as self-belief and confidence and optimism. I think that you're such a, very quickly I'm like, oh, okay, this is my sister. Like literally within the first 3 seconds, I'm like, oh, I see. So I'm trying to do, and I apologize because I'm hoping a different voice might do this for the listener. I'm trying to figure out what words you use to quantify. I fully agree with you, everything you're saying. I'm wondering if you view optimism as, so I think optimism, similar to what we were talking about earlier, sometimes gets pegged as delusion.
Yeah.
And I've been thinking about, you see where I'm going? Because I could almost feel you doing that right now. And I'm like, I get you, sister. Because like this is why it's so great. Wordsmithing matters, right? Like, for example, hustle has gotten demonized as like burnout. So I no longer use it because I don't need it. You know what I'm going to call it? Work ethic. Call it what you want. Here's what I can tell you. For all the belief you had and all the love you had in doing what you were doing, I'm pretty confident based on your outcome that there was a lot of work ethic there. And so whatever you want to call it, and sometimes I just think about, I know the word hustle triggers people, so I use the word work ethic now because I don't want to ever not let anybody who cares to listen to me not realize that if you don't put in the work, it is impossible. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree with that. And I just had a big aha moment that what you're saying is optimism. I 1,000,000,000% agree with. And I'm thinking of that right now as belief. Same thing. Yep. And now I'm right there with you. Like, here's the thing, and then I want to share one quick story with you too, that hopefully someone listening right now maybe needs to hear. But I mean, when I look back, it's like when people are like, oh, how did you start with close to nothing and build $1 billion company? It's like, yeah, I got back up every time I got knocked down, and I followed my gut and I worked really, really hard. But I do think that one of the most important things I did was just like how to build $1 billion company from nothing. Like, I think one of the most important things is making that decision to believe that you can.
Yes.
And for me, that's optimism, exactly what you're saying. And I guess I call it belief. So yeah, 1,000,000% with that. And one more thing, just on maybe people listening to us right now that are like, oh, Gary, like Jamie, I trust my gut sometimes and it's wrong, or I tried it once and it didn't work, or I don't know how to hear my own intuition. I just want to say, I think that it is a muscle that we can all build. And I think people have to give themselves grace, right? It reminds me of like when you start to meditate, a lot of people try it and they can't do it. They're like, they go through their to-do list in their head the whole time they're trying to meditate, but you have to like give yourself grace and start. And what I would say, whether it's entrepreneurs or someone who's 14 years old and out there dating right now, I would say when you start to look back at your experiences and think about moments when you had a gut feeling and you didn't follow it. Like, we've all dated like a sketchy guy or or had a, and like, you're like, his phone didn't really just like shut off for 3 days, or he didn't lose the phone. He went like, and then you kind of make that decision of like, okay.
Talk to me about, I mean, we are really vibing here. I actually want to talk to you offline because I just have had the thought. talk to, like, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I'm so excited.
Right.
Insecurity,
Yeah.
right? Because you're like, to me, like thinking to my girlfriends, friends that were girls that were dating guys that I knew what the guys were doing, which was they were preying on my friends' insecurities, and sometimes brilliant, beautiful girls. And I'm like, this fucking sucks.
Yeah.
This woman, you really triggered something in me. This woman, I'm thinking about 4 or 5 friends through the last 20 years. This woman is subjectively, and if we had 100 people ask, is a million miles better than this man. This man has figured out the cheat code that if he makes her feel insecure, he has the leverage. Thoughts?
Yep. I think that happens every single day. And I think that we look for people that treat us how we believe we deserve to be treated. Like we find partners that meet us.
So you go with, cool, before you worry about jerk off Johnny, this is a big game of your own lack of self-love towards you.
It's your own lack of self-love, because here's the thing, and I don't know your friends, so I'll just say this. I'll make a general statement.
You'll appreciate this. This was mainly 17 to 25 years old, because you see that so commonly there. I mean, in later stages, you know, people are in really deep relationships and you're in different parts of your life. When you're going through high school and college, you're spending so much time with people, you get better reads to the cleanness of the data is like, oh, this is really fucked up. When you're older, you're running in different circles, you don't really get to see it as easily.
Right. And I think that whether, you know, no matter your age, this is what I believe. I think that when someone's treating us like crap and we stay with them, I think it's because we deep down inside don't believe we deserve better yet. And here's the thing, for people like that are dating your friend who's totally screwing them over, right? If you were to bring the best, most amazing, beautifully like kind person into their space, that same girl would probably put them in the friend zone.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, because they don't yet deep down inside believe. Yeah,
it's what they're, and also people value different things through their life. You know, one of the things, you know, right now we live through a generation desperately interested in blaming social media for lack of accountability. They're just pointing fingers, right? Like if you are in a good place with yourself and your perspective is strong around gratitude, an anonymous person's negative comment is not going to ruin your day.
Yeah. And I think when it does, I think that's what's so tough, right? That's when it's a reminder to ourselves, like, oh yeah, we have some more work to do. One of the things I talk about in my book, Believe It, is just that ability to learn to turn down the volume on certain things and turn up the volume on other things. Like one example, we were 3 years into building the company, right? I was hearing no from everyone, Gary, like from all the retailers I dreamed of carrying our products that I used to shop in, right? I would save my tip money, like I mentioned, as a Denny's waitress, and buy products at the department stores or
what year was this?
So we launched 2007. Like I quit my job 2007. I wrote the business plan on my honeymoon flight to South Africa with my husband. Not the most romantic way to kick off a marriage. And we both got back, quit our jobs, dove all in. I thought, Gary, maybe so many entrepreneurs listening, I thought, oh, if I just pour everything I have and actually create a product that works, like it's just going to sell. If it's that good, it's just going to sell. And then I didn't realize it would be the hard. I mean, I've had a lot of jobs in my life, but being an entrepreneur is by far.
Well, you especially also built that brand different than building a brand today where you can use Shopify and social media to build it. You had to get a yes from Sephora, Ulta, you know, Walmart, Walgreens, and you know, Macy, whoever it was. And that is difficult when you're innovating the way you did. Do you know that my whole life is no? Do you know VaynerMedia? A lot of people listening don't know this. Most brands don't want to say yes to VaynerMedia. We don't want to do a commercial and then go to sleep. Like we don't want to take 12 weeks to do the perfect commercial and then do print ads that look like it, or banner ads, or digital programmatic. My whole life building VaynerMedia is no. Everything I do is Gary Vee's easy. I just do it with the audience. But VaynerMedia is exactly, I know what you're living through, because when you innovate and you're doing something different and you don't look the part, you didn't work at Procter & Gamble for 13 years.
Yeah.
They're like, what's this Washington State thing? Like you know what it is.
Well, and it's wild because I would go in and start, I would pitch the product, and, we were staying alive on social media. So we were getting, people were writing just blogs at that point, and we were selling like 1 to 3 orders a day on our website, and people were spreading the word. That was the only way we barely stayed alive. But all the retailers, exactly what you said. And by the way, I've learned this, like when you're doing something that's authentic or that is different, but even if it's just authentic to you, even in a crowded industry, by definition, it's novel. By definition, it's never been done before. And I really believe, looking back now at this journey and everything, I believe that like even a lot of visionaries, touted visionaries, I think they can't imagine anything being successful unless subconsciously they have proof in the back that they've already seen it and it's already worked. So it's like, of course, so many people are going to say no to your dream or doubt your dream if they've never seen it done before. And we had 3 years of every single beauty retailer saying, no, you're not the right fit. It's not going to work. You're not right for our customers. And by the way, we talk about gut feeling. I kept having this gut feeling we're supposed to go on QVC, because then I could actually like show my bright red rosacea and prove live that our product works, unlike the photoshopped ads on TV. And this is just something to share for someone who might need to hear this right now, who's having a gut feeling, but they feel like they're wrong. Like I kept having this feeling, and every time I would do a meeting with QVC, it would be a no. Every phone call, I'd finally get, like I got their head guy, Alan Burke, on the phone. He's like a legend. He's responsible for building this $1 billion beauty empire on QVC. And I finally got him on a call, and I thought for sure it was going to be a yes. And because if he's taking his precious time, and it was about a minute into the call, and he said, I just need to let you know, we've reviewed your product with all the buyers. It's unanimous. It's a no. You're not the right fit for QVC. And of course, I like poured my heart out. I'm like, oh, but I am the right fit. And then we were down to under $1,000 in our bank account at that point. So I remember like crying myself to sleep. And long story short, a year later, when I finally did get a yes to go on QVC, I took this big risk that I was advised not to by consultants, and I put real women of all shapes and sizes and skin tones and skin challenges, and I showed my own bare face and all the things that had never been done before. We sold out at the 10-minute mark. I was crying on national television because it's live. QVC is live to 100 million homes.
You knew the truth, and your heart would win, not students telling you what to do.
Yeah, and listen, it was a big risk, but I feel like I know this lesson, that like I know this, and now I've seen it play out with thousands of entrepreneurs over the years. But I know that authenticity alone doesn't guarantee success, but inauthenticity guarantees failure.
Love that.
Right?
Love that.
Ladies and gentlemen, rock this house and welcome to the stage, Jamie Kern Lima! Jamie Kern Lima!
Every single one of us has had someone tell us we're not enough. Every single one of us has had someone say words to us that hurt.